Hello, Natasha. Thank you so much for being with me today. How are you?
Hi, it's lovely to be here. I'm doing good. So looking forward to this conversation.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you. Maybe you'd give us a quick introduction about who you are and what you're all about.
Sure thing. My name is Natacha Guyot, and my accent will have sold me out, even if I live in the States now. I'm originally French. I'm still French. And I am a French intuitive guide, a content strategist, a video consultant, and a film scholar. And the biggest focus in my work is to help women decision makers and entrepreneurs reclaim their sovereignty so they can create aligned impact.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's quite a rap sheet there, isn't it? There's a lot going on from an intuitive guide to a film scholar. And what was the one in the middle?
Content strategists and video consultants.
Okay, and video as well. All right, amazing. So you probably have a lot of wisdom for us today. So that's amazing. Let me begin by asking you, though, what has your experience been in your own career of empathic leadership or lack thereof?
Oh boy, where do I start with that? I know we're going to keep it short. So I was originally spent too many years in academia, as I joke, even though I loved it, and I have seen really the best empathetic leadership I've seen was the professor I worked with as a teaching assistant during my PhD, my first 2 years of PhD, because he had such a good heart. He was really good at also holding space and being culturally sensitive as well. We had a lot of international students and trying to be really good with us, the teaching assistants, even when we were getting our bearings in our first year, some of us international. So
Okay.
that was a really one of my best examples. I would have my other best example was like a manager I had in a previous corporate job in an international SaaS company, and she understood her own limitations and was really upfront about her own, neuro diverse brain as well, so it was really easier to be able to communicate and see what worked for everybody involved. She really stood for us as well, and so those are two really good example I have. Now the not so good example, I've seen them too, including in a for me it wasn't necessarily a direct manager in corporate, but like the higher ups having like no understanding whatsoever what the hell we were even doing, and
Hmm.
it's like doing prescriptive, completely out of touch demands when it's like, do you even understand who your clients are and who your team members are? So for me that was like, wow, can we just chill for a second? And one of the big issues I had with this non-empathetic leadership was also a lack for me, the lack of structure overall and communication between teams that could really throw everything off, because even if some of us were trying our best, we basically got the rug pulled from beneath our feet so many
Yeah.
times it was exhausting.
Okay. It's not funny like that, like it's being out of touch. It's having a lack of connection and a lack of clear communication that you end up feeling like the rug's being pulled from under you. Like, you know what I mean? It's a great analogy. Um, do you think that, did you feel grounded when you did have the empathic leaders? The first
Do
two examples you
the
gave.
first the first one, like in higher education, yes, I did really feel grounded. That really helped me a lot. I loved the work I was doing,
Mm.
and that was a big factor into my first year of PhD when I just moved to Texas from France, and so that was
Ah,
a
big change.
really helpful experience. And the more I was working as well with another teaching assistant who was already, I think, on his second or third year of the program. So he was also at his level an empathetic leader, because I think that's a thing. Often we like, sometimes we tie, leadership to a position, but any of us can be a leader
Exactly.
in our community, whatever we do. Maybe it's corporate, higher education, government jobs, or entrepreneurs like me. It's really like, even if you're a stay-at-home parent, you can be a leader as well. There's not like, you don't have to have a specific title.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because it's such an important point, and then we have our own self-leadership. We
Mhm.
lead ourselves in our lives, and even being empathic to ourselves is just as important. So it's such a great point to make. Thanks a million for that. Um, So let's get into the self-compassion point here. So what does self-compassion mean to you as an entrepreneur?
It's going to start with even before I was an entrepreneur, because for me
Right.
it's tied together, but then there's specificity to an entrepreneur. It's like not pushing myself all the time and letting go of perfectionism, because I'm a perfectionist in recovery. I don't
Uh-huh.
even say I'm a recovered perfectionist, because just saying that is being perfectionist in nature. And I'm like, no, we're not going for that. So for me, that's a big element. And even more as an entrepreneur now, self-compassion also means being patient with myself, because I can be a very go 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 type of person. I'm a Capricorn. I'm like, we're gonna get things done, and like I have the plan and everything. And it's like, okay, can you chill for a second? It's okay if you achieve like not 10,000 of the goals you set out in one day. You're fine. It's a process.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that ties into the perfectionism, doesn't it? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's so interesting you mentioned perfectionism because just today I had a client in my community talking about perfectionism, and it comes up all of the time. And I think it's a real common experience for highly sensitives, for empathic people, and it's very closely linked to self-criticism and the expectations we have on ourselves, you know? So, how do you manage those expectations?
I do a lot of brain dumps and organizing notes. I know it may not be the first thing people think about, but I'm like, if I put it on paper, or on the computer, it's like I know I'm going to get there at some point. So not
Hmm.
just the to-do list or just the plan for right now. And I still love getting the to-do list done, I'll be honest. But it's one of the things of like, okay, even if it's out of my brain and on paper, that's going to help me be able to be like, I'm not going to forget about it, or I'm not going to let it slide. I still have a lot of self-discipline, but it's not an issue I have, but it's also having this self-discipline to give myself time to do other fun stuff. And for
Mm.
me, that can be a challenge. And it's like one of the things that helped me, manage that is also reminding myself that I can take time off, even if it's, a few hours here and there, because even when we're very excited, like as entrepreneur, I think anybody who has, a career that really excites them, it's like we want to get stuff done, and we may be, likely to work longer hours. And sometimes it's good. I mean, I'm not against it. I mean, I'm the first to be like, I'm really excited about it. I'm in the zone. I'm in a good mood.
Yeah.
I'm going to work longer on that. But also, like, I think the self-awareness that you don't have to do that all the time, and that you may not want to do that all the time as well, because then you're probably going to get another VIP pass to Burnout Town.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree. Like I speak a lot about an optimal energy flow, because sometimes you are in the zone and sometimes you do want to maybe carry on and do those extra couple of hours work, and you're thinking, well, maybe I should stop now. But it's very hard when maybe your creativity is flowing, you want to continue on that wave, So, but it's about calibrating to that, isn't it? And allowing for the 2 hours rest
Mhm.
following the extra 2 hours work, isn't it?
Yes, and I think the self-awareness is really an important part of it, of knowing,
Yeah.
okay, when do you keep going and when do you need to slow down? Because it's one thing to have a plan to take time off, but if you don't have the self-awareness, and I think the self-compassion is kind of the bridge between the self-awareness and actually taking the steps to doing what is best for you right now, whether it's the
Hmm.
2 extra hours, of work because you're really in the zone, or it's saying, I'm going to stop early today because I can and I need it.
Yeah, fantastic. It's I love that the connection. So the self-compassion is the connection between your self-awareness and what you need to do. Is that what you said? Say that
Yeah,
again.
yes,
Yeah, did I get
yes.
that right? Okay.
Yes, you
Yeah.
got it right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
for me,
it.
it's really the bridge, because I
Yeah,
think
it's
the
a good bridge.
self-awareness can be
Mm.
one thing of like, yeah, I know, blah, 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 but you're just like, nah, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to listen to myself. And the
Yeah.
self-compassion is like, okay, what is best
Yeah, what do
right
I need
now?
right now? Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Okay, so how does self-compassion then influence your messaging and your content, and how you're showing up, I suppose, and getting yourself out there as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's one thing that I love, because also, I'm a content strategist and a video consultant. So that's also one
Yeah,
thing I help my clients with. But
brilliant.
for me, it's like not just one thing. I think that is extremely important is finding, like having a clear message with a clear audience and providing not only what your audience needs and wants, but find the way that it brings you joy. I know it might not be like what we first think about when it comes to content marketing, but
Yeah.
I'm always like, if you're going like to, like, let's say, for example, that once you have your clear messaging, like it really needs to resonate with you. And that's something that, and we all need strong foundations. Again, like that's a Capricorn in me coming up, but it's like if you're just having a formula for your messaging, that sounds like a cookie cutter option that you heard or were told, sometimes by very successful people and sometimes by people who are not as big an expert as they think they are, but you just feel stifled in it and you're like, it's not my voice, but that's what I was told I'm supposed to, present my message this way. Like I'm all for, psychology in how we're going to approach our messaging, but I also want all of us to be true to our values. And that could be even how somebody in corporate, may present themselves, maybe at conferences or even within, when they talk with their company. Maybe they don't have like their personal brand out there in their own business, but it's even going to impact how they may present themselves, in
Yeah.
professional ways. And many of us, even who may have been in corporate, we may still, even without a business, still, have our LinkedIn profile, or maybe we have, a side hustle or something. So even if it's not a full-on business, that can be something that we still think of.
Absolutely. Like everyone has a personal brand. Everyone who's out
Mm-hmm.
there and has a career, and is whether they're going for a job or whether they're pitching for clients,
Mm-hmm.
that personal brand comes into play for sure. Absolutely. I really resonates what you're saying about like, I've been there myself where you follow the advice of the experts. You do this template or that format, or you follow what you think you don't know, but I have experienced that where I've lost my voice. Then I've lost the real true message that I began with, and it's like, where is it gone, and then you kind of have to come back to it. So do you see that happening with people a lot?
Yes, and I've been there too. I mean, I'm the first to admit I've been there too. And I had like I felt I was building two different businesses who could never be reunited in one. And then I had to just do things one way. And then I had a lot of epiphany and like, screw this moment, let's say,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're
great.
going to go back to basics. And this is why, finding our message back, or like what is valuable to us, what are our values, what is important to us, and how do we want to serve. And again, that's like no matter what what your career looks like, how do we want to serve.
Yeah.
And when it comes to content marketing, like one thing I often see is like, oh, if your ideal client is in XYZ place, you need to be on them at all prices and everything. And of course we need to meet our clients where they are,
Mm.
but I think that we also need to find the right middle, at least at this point, because everything is in flow and we evolve. Our clients may evolve as well, but it's like, let's say your ideal client tends to scatter around like three different type of channels, or including social media platforms. If one of them you absolutely hate it, please don't go there. You're going to make
Yeah,
yourself miserable and your audience will be able to tell.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
adults. We eventually get it.
yeah. Such a good point. Wow. So would you advise people to just stick to one platform or just the ones they enjoy, maybe? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, when it comes to social media, so I'm just going to say social media
Yeah.
there. It's which is like usually their ideal audience is going to be at least on two platforms. I mean,
Mm,
it's a fair assumption, and like stick to the one where you think you can actually enjoy yourself, or at least feel curious about trying to learn it. And
yeah.
another thing I would say is that we still talk a lot about platforms and things social media, but it's like also keeping in mind like, blogs or YouTube, because YouTube sometimes get lumped with normal social media. But the thing is that originally it's a search engine and it has such a much longevity, viability, because sure, we all want our videos to perform well in the first 48 hours because the algo gods, but at the same time, you may have a video that suddenly, takes off 3 years later.
Yeah.
And so this is why it does not as ephemeral. So one thing I often advise is like, have kind of an evergreen platform. Maybe it's going to be a podcast you're building, maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's a blog. And then, one social media, because like it or not, it's still where we may find a lot of our clientele. And yeah, finding that middle ground in content, and that's works for us, that we're at least curious about trying, and where our people are are going to be, is important. And just a very quick note as well is one thing I always advise my client, which is a baseline when you're going to do content marketing. Again, whether you outsource or whether you do everything yourself, depending on where your situation is when you create your content pillars, which are like the 3 to 5 main topics every single piece of content you're going to create focus on, is finding the middle between what you really love talking about and what your audience needs and wants. Because I'm like, we need to talk about pain points, yes, but also what are your clients' dreams?
Yeah.
And find the overlap between these two, because then you're going to create value for your audience while still making yourself happier and not completely miserable.
Yeah. I mean, it's so simple when you say it like that, but, I suppose we all, over the years, I know I've been drawn into that old school, traditional bro marketing kind of mentality where, as if you have to fit into that. But like, I think more and more HSPs and empathic leaders and empathic thought leaders, they're doing it their own way, aren't they? And isn't that great?
Yes.
Isn't that a good thing?
It's amazing. And I thank
Yeah.
you for bringing up the bro marketing. I mean, at this point, I even joke that I'm done with the bro bots, because I'm just like, between the bots that were created by bros and the actual bros, I'm just like, I'm done. And as an empathetic leader and as an HSP, I'm like, that mold doesn't work. Like, maybe if it's working for some people, go for it. But I mean, I don't have a problem with sales, which is often a thing that many people say, oh, you have a problem with sales. I'm like, I don't have a problem with sales. I have a problem with the bro culture and the tactics associated with it. Like, I'm fine to be talking about the work I do and how it helps others. I'm fine asking my clients for testimonials, the kind of things, and supporting and sharing my work. It's just like, I want to do it in a way that feels aligned.
Exactly. And talk to me about, I'm thinking about, you mentioned pain points, right? And many times over the years when I'm doing my content, as a coach, I would try to express the more positive and aspirational aspects of my work and where I bring my clients. It doesn't feel as compassionate for me to agitate these pain points all the time. Do you know?
I know, yes, which is why, it's one thing to recognize like the issue, like the pain points they are dealing with and how you can help them. But that's also why I'm like, what are their dreams? What are their
Exactly.
aspirations?
Yeah.
Because yes, I'm here to help you, but why are we helping them? It's like, so they can do what, like
Yeah.
in a really positive way. And I don't like agitating the pain points either. I mean, it also feels condescending to me sometimes. It's like, yeah, I already know what's going on. I'm not an idiot. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a functional adult, at least most of the time. So yes, I prefer thinking about my goals and how, working with somebody is going to help address whatever that and set me up for success in pursuing my goals or my dreams.
Exactly. And I think particularly for a HSP audience, for empathic people, for deep thinkers, we're already thinking deeply. We're already there. You don't have to kind of bang that drum over and over and over. And I think
Please
that's why
don't.
marketing just doesn't, that style of marketing never sits right, I think, with most HSPs. Maybe I'm generalizing a little too much. I don't know. We'll find out more and more the more people we speak to and the more speakers here on the summit. But I think, yeah, we're there already. We have a level of knowledge. We're processing deeply already, so why not bring it to the positive?
Yes. And also when you were like, please, we don't need you to bang that drum. Yeah, with my sensory overload is going to be really
Yeah,
nasty
no
if you
more
do that
drums,
as well.
please.
So
Exactly. Oh, amazing. Okay, so tell me as well about self-compassion. We'll come back to self-compassion a little because we want to talk about work-life balance a little bit, don't we? And bringing in more harmony, bringing in the boundaries that you need for more harmony. Can you kind of go into that a little?
Sure thing. Also, that's why I like saying, harmony over balance, because personally, when I hear balance, I'm just like, this is it.
One or the other. Yeah,
One or the other.
I
It
love that
makes
actually.
me feel like boxed in because there's so much in my work, there's so much in my other parts of my life. And
Yeah,
it's like, I feel like if I'm going to take one wrong step, the whole balance is going to crumble. Where the harmony,
yeah.
there's a better feeling of flow. Like, is it always super flowing? No, because it's life, but at least it feels like I have more options.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually use the term work-life blend sometimes as well, because it's that kind of like sometimes there is, you know, more work happening and sometimes there is more personal life happening. So absolutely, I love the way that you're reframing that to harmony. So what do we need to create more harmony? Is it more self-compassion?
Self-compassion definitely helps because I think it also goes back, of this kind of prescriptive, not necessarily pure bro culture, but like all the expectation, and I think including on us, women or even gender expensive individual of like, oh, what may be expected of us, even in a personal way, like the full on, still the ideas that run around like, oh, you're a woman, you're a caregiver and everything, which we can be, I'm all for it. But it's also like, at what point do we care for ourselves?
Yeah,
That's also a big thing. And but at the same time, you should strive and already do 10K a month in your business, or or you should climb up the ladder, if you're in corporate. And
yeah.
like
Should,
I
should,
think
should.
from should, oh, the should, that's one
Should
of my
land.
pet peeves I talk about a lot. Can we stop
Me
shooting
too.
ourselves? And I'm still struggling with that sometimes, so I am not perfect. I sometimes feel like, oh, you should, and I'm like, excuse me. Sometimes I catch myself, sometimes I
Yeah,
don't.
so
Full
do I.
transparency.
Totally. I'm there with you. Yeah.
But I think it's also like what the self-compassion is also understanding what we want. What do we really want right now? And I'm not talking, like of specific, needs or financial, issues we may have or responsibilities that are like non-negotiable right now, but like outside of those, what are the goals we really have, whether it's professionally, like, do we really want to hit like the 7 figures in 2 years? Because otherwise, are we less than? Do we absolutely want to have that free promotions in the next 5 years
Mm.
because, or, stick with that company or change company, right? Is it something that society is expecting from us, or is it something we really want? And like, there is no right or wrong answer, in personal, what do we want personally? Like, that's also the self-compassion. Like, do I
Yeah.
really want to go chase something hardcore because I really deeply want it? Please go for it. I am behind you. I am rooting for you. I am here for it. But maybe it's like, oh, I would like in my personal life, do I really want to travel to X place? Or do I really want to take back up that crafting hobby that I remember sucking at, but at least it was fun,
Yeah.
like, also take the productivity and the performance aspect out of our personal life, I think is extremely important, and self-compassion can help with that, to remove ourselves from the shooting of like what our
Mm.
even personal life should look like.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're so right. And like it's quite simple again when you say it out loud, but I think a lot of people don't give it enough attention. I would often talk about like what is your version of success? What does that feel like? And that also means something simple in your personal life. Like you say, taking up a hobby that maybe you just makes you feel good. It doesn't have to be productive all the time. I think is that a product of, the generations that we've experienced in terms of like the go, go, go kind of aspect? We're just kind of all drawn into that.
I think it's kind of a mix of, there's like, when it comes to expectations on women and generally, and even everybody, but like especially women, I would say like patriarchal expectation are still, running around of, how things
Mhm.
should look or whatever. Like,
Completely.
we all want to say we're over it, but really we're not over it. Like, it's would be great, but like saying we're over it is actually negating so many people's experience
Yeah.
and so much like sovereignty, opportunities, and so much emotional intelligence growth needed. And I think like the whole, hyper capitalism has also fed into the go go go, mentality at all times, and that impacts the go-go mentality. I think is really impacting, like the prescriptive approach, no matter what your career is, or even, the Instagram worthy personal life, that social media there as well, being like, I mean, social media and the internet can have a lot of benefits. I mean, without the internet, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Yeah.
And, but it's also like, what can we, how can we dial back from all these, expectation we're bombarded with?
Yeah.
And again, it's a process. I still fall, for them at time, because you're tired, or you're still like,
Mm.
even are you standing in your own power, sometimes it's like, am I doing the right thing, or should I,
Yeah.
dance some cha-cha with the algo a little more on the left, because, or a little on the right, like a friend of mine recently said, to make sure I'm a real, carrier person.
Mm. Yeah, it's that kind of, oh, I'll just have a quick look just to, even though I know I shouldn't, I just compare myself a little bit here. Like, yeah, just give me a few minutes, I'll just do that and then I'll stop. And I do think that oftentimes those of us that are more sensitive to everything, maybe we get drawn in that little bit quicker as well. It depends. I suppose we're back to your point about self-awareness, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's also, I think, understanding which season we are in our life, and are we a little more tender right now, or are we actually at the point where we can look for 3 minutes and be away from it? It's also like, talking about boundaries. It's like, I didn't have a smartphone until 8 years ago, and while I recognize how helpful it is, I'm like, give me a good old black block cell phones, because it was minimizing things. And for me, for example, it's like, I personally am very few social media. Like professionally, I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I'm also active on YouTube. Like YouTube is probably what I'm going to be using the more
Mm.
for my personal, enlightenment and in my personal life. But for example, if I try to actively walk like 7 to 10,000 steps a day, because that's one of the things that help me a lot.
Wow,
And if I'm
that's
not going
fantastic.
to go to do that out, to get outside the house, because maybe I'm doing it late at night because I've worked a lot, or maybe the weather is really crappy. So one thing I've done for myself is like, oh, if you're going to watch YouTube video, then I'm only ever going to watch them on my phone while I'm walking around the house.
Okay, well, that's a good one. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
that's
do that
one.
actually myself. I do it maybe on the treadmill,
Mm.
when it's like, okay, what do I have on my, but I have countless playlists, lined up. I'd say I have a good few years worth lined up, because it's that kind of place where you, as you say, it can be such a positive experience. You can learn so much. It's just about tempering it and having that harmony. I was going to say balance, but I'm going to say harmony. Fantastic. Um, Amazing. I mean, I could talk to you all day, and we've so much more to talk about. We're going to have to meet up again.
I love
Um,
that.
Indeed. Tell me about your framework that you had mentioned to me before. It's called the Empress Handbook, is it? Is
Oh yeah,
that a
that's
resource that maybe people could avail of? Yeah.
yes. So the Empress framework is where I bring like the intuitive guidance, and even like content strategy kind of underneath together. That's basically the framework I use with all my clients, since I work with women decision maker and entrepreneurs for the most part. Really reclaim their sovereignty, and to create aligned impact. And the Empress framework is a nod to the Empress major arcana in tarot, for any of you familiar with, because
Ah, fab.
I've done tarot for close to 25 years now,
Oh,
and
wow,
that's one
right.
of the way I support my clients. And this Empress framework is basically is an acronym that stands for exploration, magic, pleasure, rebellion, expression, sisterhood, and sovereignty. So this has really like the values and what I'm bringing up to life with my clients as well.
Okay.
And this Empress Handbook is a free short ebook that does offer, that does break down each of these 7 pillars, and
Okay.
add some reflection prompts, some affirmation, and And if I remember correctly, I have a card spread in it if you enjoy using tarot or oracle cards. And it's kind of a,
Fabulous.
you can go over it like in a week or even in a day if you were really like, oh, I'm excited about it, because I love using reflection prompts so that people can really process and do work on their own.
Sure.
So that gives you an
Amazing.
idea of what we may be talking about if you ever decide to consume more of my content or work together.
Definitely. Yeah, I hope we do. I really do. And I will be checking out that handbook without a doubt. It will be linked on the Hayes Summit platform, on the platform we're on here for the summit. So it will be below this talk. So definitely check that out. And look, Natacha, thank you so much for your time, for your energy today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And if anybody has any question, like, also feel free to reach out to me on email or on LinkedIn. I mean, my inbox is open.
Absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Natacha. See you soon again.